advice to every leader in a big corporate organization: you need to go once to a smaller company. It's not rocket science. It's try to make sure you understand the market opportunities. The biggest shift I needed to make is
welcome to another episode of the GS MedTech podcast, where we speak with leaders shaping the future of MedTech. I'm your host, Damé Medarski, and today I'm joined by someone who brings a rare mix of big company leadership and startup agility. My guest is Bart Stulens, Chief Commercial Officer at neuroClues, a company developing device making neurological assessments faster and more accessible. Bart, welcome.
Thank you, Damé. Thank you for the invitation.
So I thought maybe we will start with you giving us a little bit of background. You have an impressive, diverse background, so I would like to hear more about that.
Well, yeah, when preparing for this podcast, I was looking at the journey I've been going through so far, and it's already more than 25 years that I'm working in the broader healthcare environment. Starting my first 10 years of experience was in a pharmaceutical company, today called Sanofi, and then over 15 years of experience in MedTech. The majority of my career, I've been working at Medtronic in different divisions, in different roles and responsibilities and geographies. And then recently it's already 1 year, more or less now, working for a very promising startup, neuroClues. So it's a long journey, a lot of experience. I've been building a broad network as well in the broader health environment. But I'm still enjoying, as of it was day one for me.
Amazing. So obviously, we touched to the fact that you worked for big corporations and now you're working for small companies. And topic of today's conversation is exactly that. So maybe we can start with you describing some of the best habits or frameworks that smaller MedTech companies can borrow from large organizations like Medtronic.
Yeah, and I witnessed that personally in the last 11 months working at neuroClues. The benefit of working for a big corporate organization like Medtronic and others is that you are spoiled in the fact that you have many people around you, many departments around you. If there is a question, you can always find someone who can help you and support you with that level of expertise. When you shift them to a startup environment, then every question you ask, you first need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, okay, can I find the answer or the potential solution myself? Just because, and it's not abnormal, there are less resources, but also that agility in terms of leadership, you need to have or to build or to create yourself in order to find these answers. So I found that also for me personally, the biggest shift versus the corporation, versus the biggest corporate organization versus a startup, but also the fact what is working and what doesn't work. So also for a decision that you need to take in a broader corporate organization, you have many stakeholders that are involved before a decision is made. Sometimes even a frustration that you have in a corporate organization is that it takes too long for a decision is made. But sometimes the need you have at a startup is to find these sparring partners, these stakeholders to take the decision. And that's sometimes missing. So it's a lot of personal judgment you need to take and create yourself. And very often it's learning by doing as well.
It's amazing. And touching on your management of large teams and major P&Ls, how do you shift your mindset when stepping into leaner, faster paced company like neuroClues?
Well, again, here it's about looking at the decision-making process. For me, the biggest shift I needed to make is creating a fast, autonomous decision rather than multi-stakeholder input decision. So that's a big shift, but also not having all the necessary info to take a decision was for me the biggest learning so far. So you feel comfortable in a bigger corporate organization, you have a second, a third opinion, you merge everything together, and then you say, okay, I feel comfortable, now we go. And that's simply not possible in a startup environment. But that agility, but also the learning of failing fast, better said, rather than learning fast. It's failing fast, and then you shift gears. That was for me personally also the biggest shift in leadership style in terms of giving or delegating a lot of decision. Here you need to take it yourself, and that's a nice mindset shift, I have to say. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I always say to a lot of people, the industry professionals that I speak with, that a bad decision and a bad hire within a small business can make or break the business, while in a larger corporation, it can potentially put a dent in a P&L, but it's not going to actually break the company at all.
Correct. Correct. And here is also the fact that startup organizations are totally okay with that when these failures happen. And I felt also in terms of culture in a big organization, at a certain point when the stress level is increasing, there is a kind of tendency in the organization of fear, having fear to make a mistake. And then, you're not performing at your full capacity when you have more fear to do something wrong than feel the spirit of trying to do something really good.
And do you feel like smaller MedTech companies need to introduce structure and discipline, but without necessarily becoming bureaucratic? Does that need exist?
I'm 100% convinced that that is necessary. And probably I was very lucky to join a company, a startup company that was already so well structured. So I was even so well surprised that I said, at Medtronic, I didn't see that at that level. And that, of course, helped me a lot in finding the right resources, how the operating mechanism was organized, etc. I've been exposed to software programs at the startup where I never heard of before. And that was helping me also a lot to find a decent work structure myself. So my advice is, to answer your question briefly, startup organization definitely needs that from the beginning, a good structure in terms of where they want to go, but also in their operating mechanism.
So for you, it's been almost a perfect match in terms of the organization, the setup of the organization, and your expectations as well. But it seems like in my experience, many founders hire senior commercial leaders from strategics for credibility with big experience, but it doesn't always work out. Do you have any views why that might be?
Yes, and this is an advice, before I started at neuroClues and left Medtronic, there was a kind of what I called an in-between period for myself professionally. I was advising some VCs, private equities as well, doing some due diligences. And one advice I continuously give is when a startup or even a scale up wants to bring in leaders with tons of experience in corporate organization, the culture fit is for me a very important one to assess. The mindset is that growth mindset there, that agility mindset. Really target also those leadership capabilities, behavior, mindset. That's for me a very crucial one. If there is a mismatch in that cultural fit in the beginning, then it will become very tough afterwards for the integration and a successful collaboration.
So, in your opinion, if there are any personal cultural adjustments that a leader can make, do you think that's possible at all, or should from a big corporation that feels like it's a complete cultural mismatch just move on?
Well, I've been challenged myself personally on that, but I believe it's possible. And I think you see that and feel that immediately in the first weeks, months of collaboration. So I think sometimes an organization cannot afford those mistakes, but you often see that after a couple of months, or the company, the startup company, or the leader as such decides not to stay because there is a mismatch. But I feel like that's a missed opportunity in the entire hiring process, in my opinion. I really would advise also companies supporting startups and scale ups in the hiring process to really look at that and find not only looking at the experience and do they have the knowledge and the experience in that marketplace or even in that therapeutic or diagnostic area, but take that helicopter view and look if there is a potential match on the culture and the mindset. And then but that's a personal feeling I have based on my experience, then the road to success in the collaboration will be at a higher percentage of success.
And that's almost the ability of a founder and a CEO to determine what this person needs and requires in terms of an adjustment rather than giving up immediately from the get-go.
Yeah, but very often they don't know exactly, and they know they can describe more or less what they want, but also for them it's new. I've experienced a lot of founders who are brilliant minds in developing a solution, a product or whatever, but then of course how to bring it to the market, how to listen to customers and anticipate. Also, that agility is necessary, and sometimes, well, there's a lot of confrontation. When you bring it positively and constructively, then you can build something together. But I noticed also that some founders have really difficulties to say, hey, listen, this is my idea, my product, and now we're going to shift entirely. That's not what we want. So also here, there are some interesting challenges, I would say. But if the mindset is okay, then you find a model that can be attractive for the market.
Yeah. So obviously that's one of the blind spots potentially that founders are having. Have you, in your experience with speaking with a lot of them, identified other blind spots that maybe they're not anticipating?
You mean then personally the CEOs of these startup companies? Yeah. Well, what I see today in the company where I'm working, but also when collaborating with a couple of startups before my official journey as Chief Commercial Officer, I noticed that a lot of CEOs and founders, they take a lot of ownership, responsibility and tasks themselves, which is totally fine because they are not that numerous in terms of people. But now, of course, when they do a big Series A, there are new resources, money is coming in, how to delegate effectively, how to plan for a decent resource allocation, also in terms of now that you have the money, where do you invest in, how you do it wisely, does it match the strategy and the next steps we want to take. And I think that's something that is, of course, not that obvious because once there is some money, you want to spend it. I get it, but it's spend it wisely. And what can help those CEOs is defining the right KPIs related to what is their strategy and their structure. And that will help them. It's a little bit like their compass to move forward. So I see also the value of having a strong, diverse board, being a support for these founders and leadership as an important ingredient as well for the success and the evolution of the company.
Yeah, awesome. So you've kind of touched on quite a bit of an important points, to be honest. I mean, coaching founders and speaking with founders is always beneficial. And if you can summarize this for us, let's say if you're speaking with a founder and you need to give them the top 5 things that they need to be mindful of when they're scaling from 5 to 50 people, what would that be?
Then definitely number 1 would be when you start to grow, delegate decisions, do it with the right structure and KPIs linked to that. That's the second thing. Invest in diverse leadership. So look what you don't have, but what you need in your organization so that you can create, I always say the Champions League team, so to say.
Yeah.
Very close, and probably I should have started with that because when you do a big funding round and you have potentially customers and you want to create more customers, so that means that you need to stay close with the customers. And then the 5th one, I would definitely advise celebrate small successes. Do that early on as well.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And you touched earlier on, obviously, your experience with private equity and venture capital firms. And can we flip this on the other side? What do investors always misunderstand about leadership in early MedTech businesses?
Well, I see that they challenge a lot the leaders coming from big corporate organizations when they want to bring them into their private equity company or startup company. I see there is a risk aversity for that. You've been spoiled. I used that word already earlier in the podcast. So be aware that this is not happening. So I see a lot of not only challenges, sometimes even they decide not to bring in someone who has the capabilities. And I believe this is very often also a wrong decision because VCs, private equity companies can really take the benefit from that experiences that those leaders from big corporate organizations have built. And I almost want to advise to every leader in a big corporate organization, you need to go once to a smaller company, a startup or a scale-up organization, because the combination of both worlds makes you personally more rich from an experience and leadership perspective, But also the VCs and the private equities will recognize even more that this is possible. And of course, what is necessary for me is that entrepreneurial mindset that you need to see and feel when you want to hire such a person into your private equity company, for example. So of course it comes from both sides. But that's definitely something what I would encourage. I would love to see more of these shifts happening in the future. It will benefit also the broader healthcare and MedTech landscape. I'm pretty confident of that.
That's amazing. So, if from your conversations that you've had and from your experience with the VCs that you've supported most recently, when they look at the team, what are they analyzing? What are they trying to find out before they make a decision? Yes, this is a team that we like, or no, this is a team that potentially needs something.
Well, I think the first question they ask, what is the opportunity to grow, to make it something happen into the market? So what's really the dollars behind? So is that because definitely when you look at private equity, it's short term. You need to have that multiplier in terms of revenue or operational efficiency definitely being present. They look at EBITDA a lot, but when they look at the team, they look definitely for those people who can make that happen in a short, concise, and structured way. That's how I see them looking at people, and that's probably a challenge for them, that it's sometimes a kind of tunnel vision as well for them. Sometimes you have the founders who have a tunnel vision in terms of this is what we prepared, this is the product, no deviation, I'm convinced. And also for investors, you see that. And that's also an advice, take 2 steps back or surround you with people who can help you to find that right match of creating a team. You're not looking for an individual as such. One person will probably make a little bit of difference, but it will be the combination of that, creating that winning team. And that requires also to look at team dynamics. When you bring someone in, is there a good fit? Is it complementary to what they have already? That's also something they definitely need to look at. You don't need a second founder with the same spirit who always says yes when a founder is saying something. You need probably someone who can challenge and build something together.
Amazing. I love that. I think it's important definitely for a founder or CEO to know how to equip themselves with the right team around them. So you're not expecting that you're going to be finishing everything yourself, but you actually involve many other people around you to do the work that's required. Perfect. So in thinking what I can dab into from your neuromodulation experience and that impressive background, there has been a couple of very big deals this year happening. Obviously, Boston Scientific acquired Nalu Medical, Globus Medical acquired Nevro earlier in the year. What, in your opinions, are these transactions actually telling us where the market is heading?
I was very happy to read that those acquisitions are happening. And if you look at the neuromodulation space, well, it's still very close to my heart. I've been working 17 years at Medtronic, and neuromodulation was always somewhere part of my portfolio and responsibility. Are still scratching the surface in terms of opportunities that are lying ahead of us. And it's really, really important that we keep on encouraging these startups to keep investing, to keep encouraging VCs, private equity companies to invest and to spend those resources in neuromodulation. Why? Because if you look at the neurological diseases and the unfortunately heavily increase of those diseases, even Parkinson is doubling between now and 2030. So we need more solutions from a diagnostic up to a therapeutic level. And that's what neuromodulation brings. There is a lot of minimal invasive opportunities and solutions that a lot of companies are working on. So I would encourage my former company I worked, Medtronic, also Boston Scientific, Abbott, and other big ones who are sitting on a bunch of money. Start early with some minority investments, partnerships, do that early to explore. And yeah, you see those big companies, although they are investing in innovation themselves, they are not afraid to say, listen, this was probably not in our strategic focus in the last 5 years, but someone else is doing it perfectly. Now I look at Nalu, I think it's an additional opportunity for neuromodulation therapies. And of course, if they can be integrated in a big organization, then they also can benefit in terms of getting market access and market penetration, which is really important. But I'm definitely confident that neuromodulation and all these small and bigger companies, they have a bright future in front of them.
Obviously, you've mentioned neurodiagnostics, and that's maybe a good gateway into neuroClues as well. What drew you to the business?
So I've been working within Medtronic neuromodulation in my entire career in deep brain stimulation. So looking at Parkinson's disease, neurodegenerative diseases. So there was already a link from a neuroscientific perspective to what neuroClues is doing, but I was really inspired by their mission to develop the brain stethoscope. I was impressed and was not aware of the fact that eye movements have a causal link to almost 60% of our brain structure. So when I got to notice that, I said, wow, what are they developing and how can we help people to diagnose earlier and then give them more treatment options? And today, we are at neuroClues starting to focus on Parkinson's disease, but soon also other neurological disorders like concussion, cognition, dementia, Alzheimer, which are really impacting patients' life and their relatives. Well, this is, of course, a big burden of the society. If you can get the diagnose or the tools available to diagnose it even earlier, there are so many more options. And for me, that purpose, that mission and purpose-driven fact, well, that's also something that, first of all, I admire and inspired me to join neuroCruise, but also I believe from senior leaders who can find a match with the purpose of a company and then the culture fit, then they should not doubt and jump on that boat and try to make something out of that company. That's what I'm currently doing as Chief Commercial Officer in the organization. So neuroClues was born in 2020 in full COVID pandemic period. So they have a culture of very nicely remotely connecting and collaborating. They were able in 5 months' time to prepare a dossier to get CE mark. So our product is currently already CE marked and the commercial traction started. So I felt inspired by that mission. The product that was already available got CE mark. Yeah, and then now the challenge is on my plate and our team plate, of course, how you can make a success of it.
Yeah, but that's I guess a big hurdle to go over, and you've mentioned challenges and responsibility. And at the same time, you've mentioned that it's a very innovative, very new device. So what are the biggest challenges and maybe learnings of taking such an innovative neurodiagnostic product to market?
Yeah, so first of all, every founder, every company, a startup or a bigger company will say, we have a lot of regulatory requirements. So first of all, that's why, and I think it's very right how it's currently done. I was a little bit afraid with this new medical device regulation, the EU MDR. We noticed when I was still working at Medtronic, it was really delaying a lot in the beginning. But currently, well, neuroClues showed that it's possible to get CE mark early, so in 5 months' time. But of course, how you bring it to the market, that's another challenge. So you need early adopters. It's not rocket science in a smaller or a bigger company, but then also reimbursement. You know that still in when I look only at Europe, these reimbursement models per country are so different. So you need also to look at where you want to go first to get early attraction and successes and build on that to get a broader opportunity to expand.
Yeah, I always say to a lot of the startups that I'm speaking with, to be honest, and it's my experience that investors always like fewer hospitals, fewer sites, but repeat usage, repeat purchase rather than spreading too far, too much, and then not having repeat customers.
Yes, of course, everything depends also on the upsell capabilities of the product as such. Our dream at neuroClues is that every hospital in the world would have a neuroClues device to look at eye movements. But even we want to go one step further, is that we believe that it's not only hospitals, neurologists that should use it. We need to go closer to the patients, meaning the first line, the general practitioners, pharmacies, etc. Because we believe a lot that there is a lot to do also in the screening rather than the diagnostics. And then the fact is, of course, how you can scale it up. And I can entirely agree with how VCs are looking at it. Look, smaller volume, but scaling up within the same departments or hospitals. So yes, I can confirm that's also that it is a good strategy because it's not spread across regions, countries, etc. It's limiting the cost and it's increasing the focus.
Amazing. And you've mentioned, and very unusual for European business to obviously pursue CE mark before FDA. Nowadays, it's the other way around. So are there any plans for neuroClues to go onto the US market?
Yeah, that was also one of my first questions. This entire globalization, what currently is a little bit under pressure if we look at the dynamics geopolitical today. But when I joined Clues, I got a little bit of the background. So what the company initially tried to do is go first for an FDA approval and then CE mark, but they submitted at the same time. And to their positive surprise, there were some questions that came back from FDA. So currently we de-risked that, but the response and our file was so strong at the European level that we got CE mark first. And now we are very proud of it. We are a Belgian-French-based company. So we have our facilities in Paris at the Paris Brain Institute, but also Brussels in Louvain-la-Neuve, where we also do the manufacturing and where is our home base. But we are very happy that we can start locally close to our offices in France and Belgium and then expand in Europe. Use that European experience, then of course to go more global. So in our plans, we are going to go for an FDA submission also beginning of 2026 in the hope that we can also be commercially active during calendar year 2026.
Amazing. Thank you. You've mentioned Belgium and France, and I know that you have recently expanded into the Italian market. What are the next steps? What are the next countries that you're going to be targeting?
Yes, so our commercial strategy is rather simple in that sense. Go first to our home countries where there is also a good reimbursement, by the way, which is also important for diagnostic. That's helping us to get faster market traction. Learn also fast from the customer feedback, anticipate. We noticed that the reason why we are already in Italy is that there is a big appetite and knowledge in Italy in terms of eye movements linked to neurological disorders. So we rapidly found also a distributor with a lot of experience within the neurology, neurophysiology area. That's why we anticipated and went a little bit faster into a distribution partnership. Currently, we also are registered in the UK. We have first connections, clinical trials ongoing in Germany, in the Netherlands. One of the big key opinion leaders, even globally, is Professor Bas Bloem in Nijmegen, so where we also are generating a research partnership, also in the hope to gain experience. Clinical data are important, and then expand further. Currently, it's Europe 2026, FDA submission, hopefully approval, go to the US. And then we are also exploring more the Asian geography because there is a lot of knowledge, research, and appetite also linked to what we are currently developing, our brain stethoscope at neuroClues.
I went in June at a conference in Singapore, to be honest. And when you think about it, I mean, Asia has half of the world's population. And at the same time, a lot of European companies, because of cultural differences, are always avoiding it. So I'm very glad to hear that obviously you have Asia on your radar as well.
Yeah, and unfortunately, so in that geography, the neurological disorders are increasing dramatically fast. So if you look at the mission, we need also to help those geographies detecting earlier. And then, I make the link to my neuromodulation background because I see and feel also that there is a big opportunity to increase market penetration also for neuromodulation companies in those areas.
Amazing. So if you can offload some of that experience to date with neuroClues, what can other MedTech startups learn from the way that the commercialization has been structured and your market access journey to date?
Well, that feels like I should learn them how to do that, and I don't feel that need to feel a little bit praise for that. But it's not rocket science. It's try to make sure you understand the market opportunities, the barriers for every geography pretty well. I think that's where we always need to start with. Be not afraid to go fast in some early partnerships and learn by collaborating with them. I see sometimes startups waiting way much too long. You cannot go for the perfect product and solution immediately, and it's okay to fail. To do that together, and sometimes companies take 7 to 10 years or longer to have a product that available on the market, and then they're going to test it with feedback coming from the customer they never thought of. So even our CEO recently said we should go for the good enough solution and then take it from there. And if you integrate that in your commercial strategy, you do that in on the right spot with people who have a lot of knowledge and experience, are willing to help you as well. I think also this is a reach out to healthcare professionals to be open to support startup companies like neuroClues to explore that together. And please do not wait till the most perfect product is ready. Be also a little bit agile on that. I see that always as a triangle. You have the entrepreneurship from startups or even bigger corporate organizations. You have investors who need to put money into that to make that alive. And then you need the third, that angle in the triangle. You need those healthcare professionals also to partner with it, who are willing to have some failures in the journey together, but with the purpose to bring something new alive. And if you find that perfect match, well, then the future is really looking bright for all stakeholders.
Thank you. And neuroClues is currently fundraising?
Yes, so we are preparing the big Series A, so our CEO and the team. I'm also supporting our CEO and helping to fundraise, but he's doing an amazing job, and I hope by beginning of 2026 we can announce that we close that, and then we can take it to the next step. The money of the fundraising will mainly be used for the commercialization in Europe, then expanding to the US afterwards, and then of course our operations, facilities, and some research activities, because we also believe in data-driven technology, but also proven technology. So we are going to build further on that and invest also in some research collaboration. So hopefully when it's January 2026, we have some good news to share.
Amazing. I would be looking forward to that as well. And I guess as a summary and a wrap up, I mean, your excitement about neuroClues and the product is very visible, and your experience that you've brought into this is just amazing. If you get to choose, would you ever go back to a bigger corporation?
Well, I find that a nice question. I will not answer politically. I will answer how I feel. I would definitely not say no to that, because all the chances and opportunities I got at Medtronic to develop myself, they are really strong in talent development. Give people the chance, if you want to do something else, learn and do. Yes. So, but I would like to bring them. That's how I see it. If I would go back, I would like to bring that entrepreneurship that I'm learning now from a different angle, and try also to integrate and incorporate that in the mindset, in the culture of that company. And if there are companies who are open to that, I think that would be fantastic. Because sometimes they look, a startup, they don't know yet A, B, and C, and probably they're right. But a big corporate organization probably doesn't know A, B, and C either. So if you merge that together, that could be a perfect match. So never say never, to answer very shortly to your question.
And to be honest, I mean, you're raising Series A, you're doing an amazing job on commercialization. Next step is an exit strategy, and usually that's being acquired by a big corporation.
Yeah, so also here, hopefully we can benefit from the broad network that the founders who also have experience in previous companies, also myself, because that often helps to get some doors open and get the first interactions happening. But of course, we would lie at neuroClues that that's not one of our strategies. So we are definitely going to prepare also an exit at least to get even bigger and bring our mission and the fantastic product into a corporate organization who can help us to make it globally a success.
Thank you. I think it's been a pleasure, Bart. I had a very interesting insight into your experience and background, and I very much appreciate you sharing all of that.
It was with a great pleasure to be here at your podcast and to share some experiences and the challenges we are also currently facing at neuroClues. So thanks for the opportunity as well, Damé.
Thank you.